The ideas expressed in the following presentations are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of ACI or its committees. ACI web sessions are recorded at ACI conventions or other concrete industry events and will be made available for viewing free of charge for 1 week. Thereafter, they will be archived on the ACI website or added to ACI's online CEU program, depending on their content. You can earn continuing education credits through ACI's online CEU program. Visit www.concrete.org to register. ACI conventions provide an opportunity for networking and for keeping up to date with the latest in concrete technology and practices.
All right, thank you very much. What I've been asked to speak with you about today is how to really make your resume stand out and to, in essence, market yourselves. So very quickly, what I'd like to cover today, what our goal should be, offer some suggestions on how to get you noticed. In our firm, we may put out an a notice through our normal avenues that we're maybe hiring 2 or 3 people. In response to that advertisement, we may get 50 or 60 resumes. And I can tell you that of those 50 or 60, only 10 to 12 are really going to be scrutinized on a detailed level. So the objective here today is to give you the benefit of what I've seen, both the do's and the don'ts, to get you into that group of 12, so that keep you moving on to the next step. So we're going to talk a little bit today about understanding who your target audience is, how to present your resume or cover letter in general terms, and I'd also like to take some time to review some of the important parts of resumes that I see that can make or break your chances. It's very important that you understand my background, because what I am saying today is my view on things. I've probably reviewed over the last 5 years upwards of 2,000 resumes. It's my perception of what I've seen. It's not set in stone by any means, and you need to temper what I'm saying with what you're seeing in different applications where you go. But I'm a principal structural engineer in what I would consider a medium-sized practice. We have about 35 people. Hiring is a small portion of my responsibilities. Okay, I'm also a practicing structural engineer. So hiring is a piece. We don't have dedicated human resources people in our firm. I believe that's probably symptomatic of the large majority of number of firms that are out there right now. All the resumes come across my desk. So if you're going to come work for us, eventually I'm going to see your resume. We're a single discipline firm in structural engineering. We only do commercial building structures work. So really, I'm only reviewing resumes that are directed towards that. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's important you understand where I'm coming from. So first, let's talk about understanding your audience. Take the time to tailor your resume to the firm you're targeting. This may mean that you have several variations of your resume. Okay, if what we do every single day, for example, we do structural engineering for buildings. And if you send a resume in that just is a very generic, I'm a civil engineer, you're probably not going to be up where someone else who says, I'm a structural engineer, I studied building structures. So you may want to have a separate resume you're sending to me if you want to come work for us designing building structures as opposed to a general practice firm. Consider the differences in firm size. Is there an HR department? For a large firm with an HR department, you may be submitting a resume to Boston, and that HR person is going to say, well, we have no need in Boston, but if you can relocate to Des Moines, there's a possibility there. So if you're sending your resume to a larger firm, you may want to include things like I'm willing to relocate, even though it's not in your original thought process. So you need to consider, how is it different if I'm sending my resume to a firm of 3,500 people versus 30 people or even 3 people? What are the differences technically? As I said before, if you're sending your resume to me, I'm hoping to see that you're considering yourself a structural engineer. But if you're sending your resume to a very large firm that does structural, civil inspections, you may not want to get that specific on that particular resume. And probably, in my view, something that's not done enough is get a sense of the culture of the firm that you're sending your resume to. You may know someone who interned there. You may know a friend who works there. Maybe that's how you got the reference in the first place. Go to their website. You can get a pretty good indication many times about a firm just by looking at their website. If you go to our website, you'll find out pretty quickly that generally as a group, we don't wear ties in our office. Okay, that's just it. And you'll get a sense of how we do business. Okay, so go to their website, get an idea, what's this firm about. If you read the sections that they've written, don't look at all the pictures, but read what they've written, you can often get a sense of what that firm's all about. Okay, this is a loaded question. Why is structural design firm XYZ considering hiring you? Anybody want to take a shot? Come on, if no one answers, it's going to be a long day. Yes, sir.
Make money.
Very good. To leverage your talents to make money for them. Okay? They're not hiring you to pay you money so you can buy a new car. They're not paying you so that you can buy a fancy house on the water. Now, that's your goal, I get that, but that's not why they are hiring you. So the takeaway here is when you're constructing your resume, you need to construct it about what the firm is looking to learn about you and why you can sell yourself to them, that they can market you and use you to make money for them. That's why they're hiring you. Okay? So, if we keep that in mind as a general overarching thing, or idea, we'll go through a couple of things of what I've seen. First of all, general presentation. Make a good impression on me before I start reading. Okay, nicely arranged, decent quality graphics. I'm not talking about going overboard here, but what's different about where we are in time right now is that we can all sit at a computer and do things like this that we couldn't do 20 years ago. We can all create a decent looking document. So what I really want to see when I'm looking at your resume before I've even read anything is that you're computer capable. You cannot be computer illiterate in this day and age in this industry. So I'm looking at that. I have seen resumes come across my desk that look like they were prepared with a teletype machine from 1962. And they don't get past the first cut, guaranteed. I just want to know this person has turned on a computer, they have some basic ability to create a document. Okay? 2 pages max. Remove all the clutter that I don't care about. I guarantee you I'm not going to read more than 2 pages. Okay? Find the stuff that's most important, put it on 2 pages. I don't have time to read 8-page resumes. There's not enough information that you can portray at this point in your career that should take up 8 pages. Okay? The trend that I've seen, which I personally like, there's a lot of debate about this, is to include a picture of yourself on your resume. When we chase projects as an office and we're submitting our qualifications to an owner or an architect, we're almost always submitting resumes. And the trend is to include pictures of your key people on their resume. Hiring people for a job is very similar to hiring people for a project in that it's a very personal experience. People are hiring people that they can form a bond with to design their project, just like it's a personal experience to hire people for a project in an office. So we've seen that a lot more. Generally, I think it's a good thing. Cover letters. Do you even need a cover letter in an email world? We get very few resumes anymore via mail. Everything is done via email, maybe with a cover note that's taken the place of an email. If you're going to email me your resume, you're going to send me a little note via email form. And not anything that you can say in that email, or that could be said in a cover letter, can be in that email. So there's no sense in duplicating that in my view. I would only write a cover letter if there's some kind of point to be made that you cannot make in your resume. Maybe you were abroad studying for 2 years and you're trying to show why or maybe you were overseas just traveling for 2 years and you're trying to make the point that I graduated 2 years ago and explain the gap of where you've been for the last 2 years. Something like that. But generally, I don't personally see a big value to a cover letter unless there's something that you need to explain that you can't do readily in your resume. If you do choose a cover letter, here's some great do not do's that I've seen. Please don't spend time telling me how great my firm is. It's a little patronizing at best, and it's annoying at the least. Don't regurgitate my website. I was looking at your website and I saw boom, 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 boom. All you've done is, I know what's on my website. Don't take 15, 20 minutes of my time to go through and do all that. Never, ever, guaranteed, I will ball up your resume and throw it in a trash can if I see the words, "to whom it may concern." It'll take you 10 seconds to go on my website and figure out that you need to send stuff to me. So what does that tell me about you? You're not interested. You don't have the time to learn about us. Never, ever use the phrase, "to whom it may concern." Okay, let's get into some specifics, starting off with your address. Very important. Most folks are doing this now, but list both your university and your home address. You may send me a resume now in April, and I may look at it and say, "Oh, this is really promising, but I don't have an opportunity right now." I may put it aside for 3 months. You're not planning on that, but if you don't have a job in 3 months, it's very beneficial to you that I know how to contact you, at which address, and how to do it. So make sure that when you send the resume, I know where to get a hold of you. Most people will list their university address, home address, or whatever. Maybe also, if you know you're going to be at school over the summer, just list, "We'll be here through the summer months." Pretty easy one. The most important thing to me is right after your contact information is the statement, or some people call it the mission statement, objective, career objective, whatever you want to call it. You absolutely must have one of these. And if you think about it, it's the first piece of information that's on your resume that you have control over. Everything else is a fact. Where you live, what your address is, what your name is. This is the first statement where you can tell me succinctly something about you. Okay? Give it some thought. Remember before we started with the idea of why is the company hiring me? The mission statement should be a we statement, not a me statement. Okay? If you write a we statement, the resume is now about you, rather than about the relationship you're trying to forge with the firm that's trying to hire you. So I have some examples from real life resumes. And I'll tailor this by saying these are all resumes that were submitted to me by someone looking for an entry-level position in our firm. So under bad examples, you're entering a profession that's probably known as being one of the most creative, innovative professions on the face of this planet. And all you can come up with is, "I'm looking for an entry-level position." Really? Trash can, okay? Or delete box, depending upon your generation. To gain work experience in the engineering field. Didn't get very far. Here's some me statements. Now what I've done here is the green actually are good phrases. The red, not so good. So seeking a challenging position, that's always good to know. As a senior structural engineer, this is someone who's coming right out of school. So we've missed about 4 categories there. We're going right to senior structural engineer. Opportunity for advancement, that's always good. We want to know that people are driven and we want you to succeed and want you to move along. But you're advancing to management. Just kill it at advancement, okay? The next one is actually not bad, except it's totally a me statement if you read it. Obtain a full-time position designing building structures. I like that because they've taken the time to understand what we do, and now I know that their career objective is aligned with mine. Opportunity for continued learning is good, advancement is good, all that's good, except it's all about that person that wrote that. So how about this one? Seeking a position to further develop my technical skills, gain experience, and contribute to the growth of the company. What more can I ask for? That's the person I need, right? They want to grow as an individual, gain experience, and they want to help us grow. So don't underestimate the objective statement. Take some time, take a look at it. It's got to be strong. Next up usually comes education for folks coming out of school. Big debate about GPA. I would say this, put your best foot forward. It may be your total GPA. I've seen people delineate their in-major GPA. I've seen people delineate the GPA in my senior year, and maybe this is a reason for the cover letter. In my junior year, my mother was ill, I had to go home, or I was distracted. That's a perfectly valid thing to do. But when you're listing your GPA, you are being evaluated against other people. Now, we're not necessarily looking for a 4.0 or a 3.9, but if you're down in the 2.8 or 2.9 range, you need to find a way to present your GPA in a more constructive light. Okay? List applicable coursework. Maybe even attach an unofficial transcript. We hire routinely from about 10 universities in our particular office outside of Washington, D.C. I can tell you what those 10 universities, what they teach, how they teach it, and I have an expectation of what that student will know when they come to work for me. But if you're not in one of those 10 universities, I don't necessarily know what your background is. So if you could some people will list right on their resume applicable coursework. I took especially if it's something out of the norm, I took a full semester in post-tension concrete, or I took a full semester in advanced masonry design. List that right on your resume. Or if you can, an unofficial transcript works for me too. Most of us realize that official transcripts cost you money. Just to get your foot in the door, an unofficial transcript, we can look at it, see what your coursework is. It gives us a better appreciation of what you've studied and what you're capable of. Specifically list computer skills. Design software that you've been familiar with, and in this day and age, modeling software, BIM software. If you've used Revit, or if you've used any of the other modeling software that's out there, that gives you a huge advantage in most application conditions over your competition if you've had exposure to modeling software. It's where the industry's going. Most of it is heading there or has already arrived. Describe your use of that software. I'm proficient in Revit structure. I'm familiar with AutoCAD 3D or whatever it is. Be honest, because if you get to the next step and you're in my office interviewing, we're going to find out real quickly what your level of competence is. But the fact is, if you've got that experience, you need to list that specifically. Professional work experience. Biggest thing here, And again, we've tailored this presentation to students, for the most part, coming right out of school. Having your EIT credential is a must. There's no easier time in your professional career to sit for and pass the EIT than while you're in school. It's a must. After your EIT, start with your technical experience. If you've had a summer job, if you've been a research assistant, anything you have, describe what the technical tasks that you've undertaken while you've been doing that work. And again, list the design and modeling software you've used while carrying out those tasks. And then at the end, you follow with any non-technical experience you have. Some may not have any technical experience at this point. That's fine. Emphasize, to me, the work that you have done, how it shows leadership ability, drive, your ability to organize, get things done on time. And then activities and interests usually follows behind that. This is probably the part of the resume that I enjoy reading the most personally, because other than the mission statement, it tells me about you and what your interests are. And, all I want to understand is that you're a well-rounded individual. You're going to fit into the office environment that we have. If you go to our website, you'll see that we have a bicycling club. So if you're a cyclist, you already know that, and you've got that information in this section. I want to understand that you're going to be productive. So any interests that you have outside work, type applications, things like that, that's what we're interested in seeing. So what I've done, I think that's pretty much it. I just walked through it. I just wanted to emphasize those things that we see to get you through that first cut. Okay? So the best advice I can give you is make sure you understand what your target audience is. Your resume should be different, potentially, for every firm you're submitting to, if they are different. Okay? That's it for the canned stuff I had. I'd be happy to take any questions, comments. Yes, sir.
Do you ever have anybody list any electronic or net sources out there, maybe have a website with some of the work? Would they ever list something like that on the resume?
It's common if there's a senior capstone project. Many times we'll get a website link. That's also very good. Certainly list that, because then we can go at our leisure and review some actual material that the person has created. So I would, if that body of work is out there, I would certainly list that.
Frank, a question on we at Arizona State, we highly coach our students on their Facebook pages. As a person on the other side of that hiring issue, do you actively go out and say, here are my 10 guys that pop? Next step is to check the webpage. Check their webpage.
Step 2. Yeah. Step 1 is to get from this humongous pile of 50 down to maybe 10. So what we've talked about today is to get from 50 to 10. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Google your name. And now I'm not interested in every little thing you've ever posted, but if something pops up at me that says, again, I'm not interested in your personal life, but to the extent that I'm trying to figure out, do you fit into our office environment? If some picture pops up that puts you in a position that says, wow, then you're gone. You're out of the 10. So very much so, you need to be very careful with what's posted. And I would say this, going through your professional career, you only have one professional reputation. You've already started to mold that professional reputation. You may not be out of school, but your reputation is already forming. And you've only got one, and you should protect it with your life, because it will follow you for the rest of your career. Yes?
One comment as a hirer, I know our company, just for students, if you have any typos on your resume, no matter how good your resume is, it's in the trash. So misspellings, anything like that, it doesn't make it through.
That goes without saying.
It does,
It's-
but
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of students, I know
Yeah.
at Iowa State, we have to tell them all the time that
In the world of Spellcheck.
Spellcheck, yes.
So, or you know, what we see from time to time is Spellcheck will change something inadvertently and change the meaning
Right.
pretty dramatically. So you have to proofread what you're sending, just like any document you send out. It's got to be proofread. Yes, sir.
I have a couple of questions I get from my students often. That I wonder if you can
Sure.
talk about.
I'll give it a shot.
It's sort of shelf life activities and experience that they should do, like something they did in high school a while ago. How far back should they go? And the second is the next step after they submit a resume, following up with a phone call or email.
Okay. First one, is there a shelf life on experience that you list on your resume? And I would say that depends on what job you're applying for. If you're a new student coming out, to me, I'm not interested in when you did the work. I'm interested in what skills it demonstrates. So from that perspective, I would say no. If you get later on in your career and you've been in the business for 25 years, what you did when you came out in year 2 probably isn't much value to me, because I'm not hiring you for those skills anymore. But for a new student, it's the dates of when you did the work is not as important to me. I want to understand what your skill sets are. And the second question again was, following up. Good one. If you send a resume to us, we will generally respond to you, thank you, we received it, and we'll generally try to give you a time that we'll get back to you within 2 weeks or a week or 3 weeks, depending on where you hit us in the cycle of hiring. I would say that if you haven't heard from the firm in that time, I think it's perfectly okay to send a short email that says, hey, I sent you this resume, I haven't heard. That's perfectly fine. What's not fine is when that email is sent 7 or 8 times in 8 days, which we've had that. And that will tell me that you do not fit in my office environment and you're in the pile. So it's perfectly fine to follow up, but you don't want to, again, realizing how I started this whole thing, hiring is one of my tasks. So please don't monopolize my time. Now, if you're submitting to a firm that has an HR manager, maybe it's not that big of a deal. But it's perfectly okay to follow up, I just wouldn't overdo it. Yes, sir.
Is it a good idea to send the resume to a company where there's no job opening, just to send like a company I found your website that would be interested in working with you, not during the hiring period? Do you like it, or is it just?
That's fine with me, and I'll tell you what I'll do with it is I will send you a short email back that says thank you very much. I will screen your resume like I do others, and if you pass the initial muster, you're going to go into a pile that I have that if we hit that next big job 3 weeks from now, that was totally unexpected and I need people, now I'm calling you. So I would not shy away from sending resumes to firms just because they're not actively hiring.
All right, good. Thank you very much.